Hello, and welcome to I Hate Talking, a podcast about talking, including etymology, frustrating topics, current events, and other random subjects. I'm Adam.
And I'm Steph. We are married, and we invite you into these discussions with us as we talk about the good and the bad of talking.
We hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to episode 81 of I Hate Talking.
Hi, everyone.
So there were a few topics that we did not fully conclude on from our last episode in terms of the color blue, with perhaps what the Russians call a blue Russian cat breed, nor any particular findings on how blue is used in a way that means puritanical or overly religious.
Okay.
Or how blue is used to mean off color. So we'll do that before our official word or phrase of the episode and our topic. So stay tuned for that. We did want to address a couple of these things that we, like I said, did not come to a conclusion on last time. So the first and perhaps easiest is the blue Russian, which is the cat breed.
Mm-hmm.
And they call that the Siniy, russkiy.
Okay. Did it come from Russia initially?
Yes, this particular cat came
Okay.
from Russia. And that is the particular shade of blue or hue of blue that is the dark blue in Russian versus the light blue. So it literally means dark blue Russian.
But why is the cat named that? 'Cause they're not blue,
Well, in certain lights, they appear bluish in color.
I guess, because they're gray. If you have never seen one before, they're like not even a dark gray. What do you say? Like a true gray color.
Like a bluish gray, I would say.
Maybe. Okay, well, maybe that's what, if in Russian, I would think that was the color blue.
Well, if you were in Russian, you would have a greater attenuation to the color blue because of the different words for blue.
Yes, I would say it's just a pure gray.
So Russians are just better at blue and identification of blue.
I guess so.
So I think we should just trust them when they say this cat is blue.
I like their tea and I like their cats. So sure.
Tea?
Yeah.
You don't like tea.
I don't, but I do like, when I was in Russia, I would go to tea at this elderly lady's house, and I really liked whatever she put in her tea. I didn't speak Russian, so I didn't quite understand what she put in it. But she didn't like that I was a social worker, because she told me that in Russia, they don't need social workers.
That's true.
So, take that for what it means. But I enjoyed whatever. That's why our teapot is Russian.
Indeed.
From her. Yeah. All right, go on. So we have the Russian blue cat, which is our kitty.
Yep.
That's 12 years old. And go on, the next thing.
So the other one was blue as it relates to puritanical law, overly religious, moral rigidity.
Yeah, I never heard that before. Okay, so go elaborate on that one since you studied it.
So this one does not have any particular conclusive evidence. It's sort of like our On the Fly episode where there are some reasonable and seemingly legitimate explanations, but none that are firmly proven.
Okay.
So this one does seem to have at least the locale established, that it came from the New England area of the Americas in the probably 18th century, it seems. And it is theorized that perhaps it is because the Puritans were very strict in their religiosity and they wore blue as sort of their color of clothing. And therefore, their rules were the blue rules because they were Puritans and wore blue. There's another theory that states that the rules for conduct, especially on the Sabbath, were written on blue paper. So then, therefore, those were blue laws.
Is that where the term possibly comes from for blue laws?
It is. They do definitely seem related, that this moral rigidity and blue laws as it relates to conduct on Sundays are somehow related, whether that came from Puritans' clothing color or perhaps the paper on which these rules were printed. is how we got blue.
Yeah, one day we'll have to talk about that because I had never heard blue law before. I grew up on the West Coast. And when we got married and we moved to rural Pennsylvania, I learned about blue law. Like, that was not a thing I knew existed. And I'd like to learn more about that sometime.
Indeed. So
California doesn't have blue law.
Yeah, I guess they're about as far away they can get from
I'm sure.
New England. And then it also is theorized to perhaps be a derogatory term for blue and these people's way of life, that it was overbearing and gloomy, and therefore it was blue because it was saddening to follow these moralistic edicts that they set forward.
I buy that. But it's just so funny that's so different. When I think of someone saying that's so blue, I think inappropriate. So it's funny they're so extreme.
Indeed. And then there's quite a few theories on blue as it relates to off color. There are some that theorize that blue as off color was in direct opposition to blue laws and things like that. So almost as
like it would make the blue mad.
Correct.
Kind of thing. Okay.
That does not have a lot of support. That is a
I was like, I buy that one.
Okay. Very narrowly held theory. Then there are some things with particularly swearing that it is related to turning the air blue. So if somebody's using inappropriate language, that they would be turning the air blue, and therefore that is blue remarks or blue content.
What do they mean by turning the air blue? Like sucking all the air out of the room kind of thing? Like a shocking?
No, I think it would be maybe. I don't know. I didn't actually research that particular phrase. I've heard that phrase before. I don't know where the particular etymology of that phrase is from.
We're going to be busy.
So maybe we'll have a follow-up for next episode. And then the third theory is that it is related to the clothing that blue-collar workers wear, and they would perhaps not conduct themselves in the most appropriate manner, and therefore anything that a blue collar does would be blue, and that would be sort of the off-color, not appropriate for work type jokes and things of that nature.
I don't like that one.
The most widely held theory and what is actually documented is it's the turn the air blue.
Okay. I can picture the like shocking, like everyone takes a gasp and you turn blue because you're not breathing. You're shocked at the inappropriateness. All right. I'll go with that one. Sure.
So the particular research that I just did on turn the air blue is that this also probably originated in the 1800s, and it's possibly a slang term for like a blue streak, where that is related to brimstone and lightning in terms of a blue tinged sky when you are going to be judged for what you're going to do or what you are doing.
Okay.
In turning the air blue.
Like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Or having that blue streak.
That kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So some potential theories, no specific actual proven etymology on these particular things, but interesting nonetheless. And I think it is pretty definitive that they're not directly related. I think that is one of the theories, that they sort of used blue in terms of the off color as sort of a direct opposition to blue from a moral rigidity, but that is one of the least likely theories. So I would hold to that they're probably unrelated and developed completely separately.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I like the idea that it's an opposition of it.
Perhaps so. I think people, if they're going to designate something as opposition, they're going to choose something that is opposite. So red and blue or something like that, that it would turn the air red.
I guess. Yeah, you're right. At least in modern day, yeah.
Well, the 1800s aren't that unmodern.
So unmodern. You're right, though. Relatively.
So that is our recap and some extra content that we did not get to last time. And now we'll turn our attention to our word or phrase of this episode and our topic, as it may or may not relate to that particular word.
Okay, do you know what the word crèche means?
Crèche. So cresh.
No, I'll play with Google how they pronounce it because maybe I'm mispronouncing it.
Crèche.
It is CRECHE. Crèche.
It's almost like quiche. Krish.
Almost.
Crèche.
Well, that's what Google calls it. Crèche.
Crush or crèche. This sounds vaguely familiar.
Crèche.
Crèche. It does sound vaguely familiar. I would not be able to give a definition or etymology. I feel like I have heard or read this word somewhere before. And maybe if I heard it in context, I would be able to derive a general meaning, perhaps, but I do not know what the word crèche means.
All right. Well, it is a Latin word that means crib. And it's in Luke 2. It's talking about Jesus was laid down in the crèche. So in Latin, often they'll call a nativity scene a crèche.
I see. Why wouldn't it be in Greek?
I don't know.
Well, the New Testament is typically written in Greek.
Okay.
So this would be from like the Roman Church in Latin days when they had the New Testament in Latin and they were the only ones that could read it. And then they were the purveyors of the crèche.
It must be because it is the dictionary definition of crèche is a model representing the scene of Jesus Christ's birth displayed in homes or public places at Christmas. It also means a nursery where babies or young children are cared for.
Yes. So that does make sense that it would be something related to the iconography of the Roman Church or other religious institutions that perhaps focus on the actual icons rather than the meaning of the crèche.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it in Greek now? I'm curious. What is crib or crèche or manger in Greek?
Pachni. Pachni.
I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce that. So hopefully you heard that on there. The Greek word for crib in religious context means manger or nativity scene, which we know from baby story Jesus.
Well, it's interesting to note that the primary definition of fatni or fatni is manger or feeding trough, and crib as the tertiary meaning. So it's interesting that the Latin word elevates this to the primary meaning of crib.
Do you think that goes back to the scripture, though, where Jesus was laid in a manger and a feeding trough for animals? And then the Latin took that and, like you said, elevated it to the meaning of a crib that we know nowadays. Because the baby was laid in the feeding trough.
Well, there is the popular Christmas carol Away in a Manger that talks about that particular thing, that he was away in a manger, no crib for a bed. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head.
Mm-hmm.
So from that particular song, the crib did not exist. There was no crib. There was no crèche. It was a fatni, a feeding trough.
Right.
A manger.
So then we ended up taking that term. That's where Jesus was laying when he was born.
Yes. Well, my point being that perhaps for the specific intent of how that word is used within the New Testament, within Luke chapter 2, that perhaps the Greek is more of an apt term because the primary purpose of that particular device was for feeding animals.
Correct.
And not a crib, which I think we would typically refer to as a place as a bed for sweet baby's little head. And the Latin term co-opts this particular thing and makes that the icon.
Yeah. So in certain cultures that elevate Latin, you're saying, they would elevate the word the feeding trough and turn it into a bed, the crèche.
Well, I wonder then if there's a Latin term for feeding trough.
I don't know.
Or did they just replace the word because it made more sense for their sales of nativity sets?
I don't know. You're the one that learned Latin, not me. So last night we had an 8-year-old teach us some Latin at an event we were at. Do you remember that? You were there. You might not have been part of the conversation.
No, I think I missed that.
He was saying a word and I asked him what it meant. And he was like, it's Latin. I learned that in school. Like, oh, good for you.
Yeah, indeed. So there is a Latin word, crèche, that is the word for manger, not crèche.
So
So in your research of this particular word, this is the word that is used specifically within the Latin translation of Luke 2?
You look it up. You're better looking things up.
According to AI, the Latin word in Luke chapter 2, verse 7 is that crèche, which is the word in English, manger. And that ultimately means to eat or chew. So basically, the animals would eat or chew their food at the manger. So the crèche is not specifically used within, according to AI, the Latin translation of Luke. So then where did crèche come from? And how did you encounter this particular word? Because I'm not finding it here in the Greek and Latin translations of the Bible. So I did not trust AI, and I consulted the Latin Vulgate. And indeed, the word manger is this
Is
precipice. No, it's not
Oh.
crèche. Precipice, or
Okay.
however you pronounce it. So I think the word crèche is interesting, that it means crib and has been used to specifically refer to Jesus' bed and the nativity scene. But it does seem that the Greek and Latin agree that the original word was manger.
Going to keep researching this or follow up later.
So I guess to finalize this particular topic, we need to at least check the etymology of the word crèche. We may not know exactly how it came to be used as the nativity scene, but we have our possibilities with perhaps that came about with the way that the churches were promoting the nativity scene.
According to Merriam-Webster, it says that in the 1300s, the substitution of crèche for manger probably wouldn't have raised any eyebrows. Back when the spelling was improvised and several different words and spellings included crèche, crèche, fresh, and creche were used to describe a holding feed or livestock to identify a manger where Jesus was laid. By the late 18th century, crèche, which followed the French and now sometimes spelled without the accent mark, had displayed those older forms of the word that had lost the former manger meaning, coming to refer instead to represent the nativity scene itself. That's what I get when I look it up. What do you get?
Yeah, something similar. I do not find any Latin roots of this, that this was actually originally a French word and may go back to Germanic languages. But crèche is a French word that originally meant manger, crib, or stall. So that makes sense that that would not be in the original Greek translations of the New Testament or the Latin Vulgate, because crèche was never a Latin word. And that perhaps it does go back to Germanic languages with words that mean crib.
Right. So in my quick research, maybe I'm wrong about the Latin, but that's what it did say. But you're right. Everything I find as I follow up more, it's French.
There you go.
Talking
We
about
can never get
the story.
away from the French words. It seems like we always run into those in the words that we choose or are asked to research.
Maybe we'll just go to France one day and do a live podcast there.
Perhaps so, and we can just leave our kids at the crèche.
Right. So the reason I was looking up these words was because, one, I feel like you're maybe in an oppositional mood. And so, do you know what happens in 2 months and 2 days from when this podcast drops?
Well, probably is going to be Christmas.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, indeed.
So, in that spirit, I want to talk about when is too early to decorate or for Christmas or sing Christmas songs.
Well, I feel like we've talked about this before. Have we not?
I don't know. I
Maybe
mean, you and I have for sure because we don't agree.
Maybe I think Christmastide, not time, was one of our episodes. But I think that was mainly more focused on when will Christmas end.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're flipping that around and asking, when can Christmas begin?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe we touched on that, but maybe not fully. So my default stance is that Thanksgiving needs to be celebrated and respected. And then after that, you can begin on the Christmas festivities.
So I looked it up. I couldn't get exact estimates or realistic ones because they vary. I wanted to look up what most people say. Because you're right. I feel like the majority do say that any day after Thanksgiving is fair game. If you didn't care, I would already have a tree up. And I would already have my lights on the house. So I think we vary very differently in that.
That's true. You already do have lights up around the house, though they are like yellow and browns. And I guess that's
fall.
That's fall, but in your mind, you don't think of them as Christmas lights at all?
No, because they have leaves next to them.
I see.
If it's leaves, it's fall. And yellow lights, that's definitely fall. White or green and red, that is Christmas.
Well, I'm also a fan of Christmas trees that were alive or previously alive, and to have a real tree, Christmas tree, in your home for 2+ months seems a bit dangerous.
Yeah, that seems dangerous. Yes, you are a big fan of real trees. I think we've only in our life had 1 year in our marriage. We've been married for over 16 years now. 1 year we had a fake tree. And I think this year we're probably going to have a fake tree because of certain lifestyle choices, right? So how do you feel about that then?
I think in the year that we did not have a real tree, we did still have like real pine boughs and some branches and things like that.
So we've always had fake trees in different parts of the house because I just love decorating. And that year, it wasn't feasible or realistic for us to have a real one. So we do have artificial trees. And we're just going to make an artificial tree our real tree this year. And that's what we did that year as well. But you got sad. So that was my choice that year back then. That was my choice for certain circumstances we were in and finances, yada, yada. So I made the choice, let's not buy a real one. We have artificial trees. And I could tell you were sad. So I did go to the store and I bought a really nice real life wreath. And that's what we had for the pine scent.
Correct. Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
So this year, do you think you're going to be sad? We've already discussed, let's not buy a real tree. We have artificials. And because of circumstances, it makes more sense this year. Do you think when the time comes, you'll be sad at that choice?
Perhaps maybe we can go visit some locations that have real pine trees as their decorations, and that will be sufficient.
Just to smell it or to bring some home?
Yeah, to visit it and smell it and enjoy the presence of a
Would you
tree.
want like a real life wreath like before? Or Costco sometimes has some garland that's real pine?
Well, it almost sounds like you're trying to tell me that we should get a real tree right now.
No, I'm the one that's anti-real tree.
Indeed. So, I don't know. I suppose my mind has not been on Christmas, so I have not given any mental capacity to thinking about that and whether a real tree will be necessary or not, or some substitutionary thing that will be similar but not the same.
So what would happen if you came home from work tomorrow and our house was all decked out for Christmas, what would you feel or do?
Yeah, I guess I would just go along with it, but perhaps not be that excited about it.
So if the mantle had our stockings hung,
Well, what am I supposed to do? Just take them down and then you'll be all upset.
the kids would all make such a big deal about you being a Scrooge.
That's true. So, and then music. I think Christmas in July. You can have your one day in July to play some Christmas music. But again, it's really got to wait till after Thanksgiving. I think that
But why?
places do play Christmas music even earlier and earlier these days, that you'll hear Christmas music on the radio or in the mall or in various public places before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
You need to give Thanksgiving its due respect
Why?
because it's a national holiday.
Man, do you know that Canada celebrates Thanksgiving already? They've already celebrated.
Well, they must be very thankful people then.
They're so smart. They got their time to celebrate. Now they can focus on Christmas.
They don't even really celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Boxing Day.
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying that it's ridiculous that we squeeze so much into less than a month.
It's a little bit more than a month. And then if you keep going, like we talked about in our Christmas side episode, which would have been less than a year ago, I believe, because we probably talked about that in January, is that you can have the 12 days of Christmas and then you're celebrating into January and beyond, potentially.
Right. Which we do, and that's helpful for us as a couple. Thanksgiving this year is November 27th. That is less than 30 days till Christmas. So technically, if you want to stop celebrating on Christmas, you're not even giving me a whole month to celebrate.
Yeah, I think if it was up to me and I had no external pressure or cultural pressure, that I would celebrate Christmas on Christmas and then have the celebration last after Christmas. You don't really do anything Christmas related until Christmas, and then you celebrate Christmas post Christmas Day.
No lights.
Yeah, you put them up on Christmas, and then you have the 12 days of Christmas.
Do you know that I started watching my Christmas movies last week?
That does not surprise me, but I did not know that as a fact. But I am not surprised.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's fine. You can do your own Christmas routine, but I'm probably not going to partake in any of that. Plus, I
No.
don't really even necessarily like very many Christmas movies. There's a few, like Die Hard and A Christmas Carol, and what's the one with
You
the
like A Wonderful Life.
Wonderful Life? Yes.
You watch that every
That's
year.
not actually the one I was thinking of that I can't place the name. The Shoot Your Eye Out one.
Oh, Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
Yeah, we always
Yes.
watch A Christmas Story. We always watch It's a Wonderful Life. That I feel like is yours and my tradition.
I actually enjoy the
Elf. That's so good.
No, I was going to say the Twilight Zone marathon on New Year's Day more
Yeah.
than I enjoy Christmas and the related movies.
Oh, that makes me want to cry. That is good too, though. The Twilight Marathon. But no, I love Christmas. You tolerate watching one or two. I feel like I can get you to watch one or two romantic Hallmark movies with me. I was talking to someone recently, and she is doing a Hallmark movie right now. So I let her know that I am the biggest Hallmark movie fan, and I will watch and critique anything you want to give me, no matter when. And so that was super exciting. I came home. Remember, I told you, like, I'm going to read her thing, and I'm so excited.
And that was specifically Christmas themed, or
It
it's
is. It's a
okay.
Christmas themed
It's a
movie.
Christmas themed
and,
movie.
oof,
There you go.
it's
Maybe you
not
can
like-
get your name on the credits.
I don't even care. I just want to read the scripts. Oh, so exciting.
Indeed.
That's my dream come. I'm not a writer, obviously, but I'll watch or read anything people want to write Christmas themed. So what happens right now, this is the time of year, things are changing in the stores. You're getting more Christmas than Halloween or anything else. So how does that make you feel when you walk into Target and you see the Santa Claus?
Well, Halloween's not even over yet, and they're already transitioning. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a little bit.
Essentially, Halloween's over.
Well, that's fine with me. I would trade out Halloween for Christmas, but then they need their Thanksgiving decorations, like some turkeys and stuff.
That's why we should celebrate beginning of October. People by after Halloween are over it. Thanksgiving doesn't get its due rights because of when it's located. It needs to be earlier in the year.
Oh, I guess you can write a letter to President Donald Trump, and maybe if he's not busy knocking over half the White House, he can change the date of Thanksgiving.
That could be the next thing he does. There you go.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
What I would really like the government to do is just get rid of daylight savings time. That would be better than Christmas, better than Thanksgiving, better than all national holidays combined. Just do that. And you could even have a national holiday like the abolition of daylight savings time day.
I think there's way more important things to the government. If I was going to ask them to do one thing, it would be something different. But good for you.
No, I just mean
fight you're willing to fight.
I just mean in terms of holiday and construction designations. That
I'll
the
vote
daylight
for it.
savings time is much more important than any demolition, reconstruction, as well as any designation of holidays, past, present, or future.
Now, if there's a ballot and it says change the date of Thanksgiving or make daylight savings time a national holiday, I would vote to change Thanksgiving earlier because it gets overshadowed by everything. But I agree, get rid of daylight savings time. It is.
Well, when do we fall back for daylight savings time?
Beginning of November.
Beginning of November. I guess that varies based on whatever the Sunday is. So,
right. So they changed
what
it.
if we just change Thanksgiving to the old date of fall back daylight savings? And then you can kill two birds with one stone.
Okay. I'll vote for that. That ups it 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. So I would vote for you for those. If that's your platform. My question is, would daylight savings time ever fall on Halloween or Thanksgiving ever fall on Halloween at that point?
I don't think it could because didn't President Bush or somebody move daylight savings time so that it always fell after Halloween?
They did it Sunday after Halloween, so you get more daylight for trick or treating.
Yes. So I guess the worst case is that you would have like Halloween night on Saturday night, 31st, and then the next day, Sunday, would be Thanksgiving.
So you would just change Thanksgiving. It wouldn't be the Thursday.
No, this is, yes, you're saying we can do anything. So let's just put
November 1st.
Thanksgiving on
November 1st, always.
No. The first Sunday in November. The day that it used to be
Okay.
daylight savings fall back. Because then we can give thanks that daylight savings doesn't exist anymore.
Why? Okay, but tell me, why can't we do that? You have a fairly flexible career. A lot of your family does too, or we don't really do Thanksgiving with my family. We're so, across the country. So why could we not personally celebrate Thanksgiving the first Sunday in November, and then it's Christmas season?
Well, I guess if enough people do that, then that's a possibility.
But why can't we?
I guess we could. I don't know.
Your job is flexible, right? In fact, they'd probably prefer it, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
So why couldn't we change Thanksgiving?
Well, I think there's still some cultural and nationalistic unity.
Like the Macy's Day Parade?
Macy's Day Parade. You have Black Friday. You have certain things where all of the nation is giving thanks on the same day. That is a bit of a cultural unifying event.
Okay.
I don't have much argument beyond that. That's pretty much it. There's the cultural events and the national unity.
That doesn't sound that convincing to why we can't put our tree up right now. Or November 2nd.
So we just have to wait till after Halloween. Is that our new rule?
Is that a rule?
No, that is not our rule. It is interesting just how much is influenced by cultural norms and expectations for events and holidays. Myself included. I'm affected by that. So you, our listener, can let us know when you start your Christmas season. And perhaps you would also like to weigh in on potentially moving Thanksgiving or abolishing daylight savings time or both and just combining them into the same day.
Yeah.
So you can always let us know in the comments or send us a text or send us an email. And as an interesting note, I believe we're on track for October to have our most listens ever.
Wow. Cool.
In a
Good
month.
for us.
Yes. So
hey, thanks, y'all.
We want to keep that going. So if you enjoyed this episode, instead of just sharing it with one person, share with two. Because then we can have exponential growth.
There you go. And then November will be crazy high.
Perhaps so. Or maybe we'll be busy celebrating Christmas.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait.
So from your friends at I Hate Talking, until next time, remember, it is only through talking that we begin the journey to understanding.